Hey, what's up, Extreme Sports fans? It's 1080 snowboarding for the N64. Or do you feel pumped? Do you feel like you can hit the powder after playing this game? Let's see what happens. It's really hard for me to talk in that tone, but hello, friends. And let's take a look at 1080 snowboarding as part of the N64 A-Z series. Of course, numbers start before the letter A, so that's why we're starting here. Now, as playing this game, I do have fond memories of it as a child, so we try to, you know, take nostalgia out of it. And this is a fresh play, recorded just a few days before the posting of this video. But so we'll get into that. But let's start with the graphics. Graphically, the game looks pretty decent for the N64, with the powder trails and the snow effects and various lighting effects like the sun going down or some other things going on there. Although some of the buildings and trees look kind of funky sometimes, and the snowboarders all kind of look the same from the back. Now, looking at music and sound in the game, you can hear the sound of you shredding the powder there, and you can certainly hear the music, which is extremely appropriate for this game here. And it actually has a good beat and doesn't seem like overly over the top or annoying or any license use like SSX Tricky or something like that. Now, if you have played SSX Tricky or well any of the SSX games or Snowboard Kids or anything like that, this is where this game falls flat on its face. Is when the gameplay is just not great anymore. It's clunky, it's hard to do tricks, and the main thing is it's really hard to balance a landing. I've never had that much of a problem with it, but it is difficult that you go off a little tiny bump and then your snowboarder is eating snow for the rest of his life. And that can seem kind of unfair, and it kind of makes things kind of not as much fun as it could be, especially with like a ski jump later, or like the Trick Challenge or anything like that. It makes it very difficult to rack up points. But on the other hand, it is super simplistic in terms of tricks and all that good stuff. But if you come into the game expecting SSX or even it's N64 Contemporary Snowboard Kids or Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, you're going to have kind of a bad time with it because it's nowhere near as polished as those, and you will fall a lot. It takes a lot to get that balance back down, but there is a pretty decent game underneath all of that with the racing. The racing is pretty authentic. With the multiplayer as well. I would say you could probably pass on the trick attack unless you're extremely patient and can figure out that balance issue, and then you'd be having an all right time with it. But the best thing is the challenge mode, which has a series of events that is you do some tricks, but that's not the important part of it. It's a wave race style slalom race or slalom race, whatever that word is, and you get points by doing that, and you extend your time just like wave race. So, minus like maybe the turbos and the overly enthusiastic announcer there. And we'll talk about wave race when we get to the W's one day. So, do I recommend the game? It's tough. It's hard to recommend the game unless you've put 100 hours into it. But even then, I feel like the game is just clunky. It has that N64 clunk to it, where it's not necessarily janky, but it's nowhere near what it could be. There are some issues, like if you see some of this video, where it's hard to stay on the track, and it's hard to keep upright. And if you get knocked down, it is detrimental to you because the computer will just steamroll you, and then that'll be that. But for multiplayer, it has its moments if you have friends to do so. I obviously don't because I'm doing this. But if I had a friend or two, it might be a pretty good time. But if you're gonna go with a snowboard game, maybe we could check out Snowboard Kids later in the list here. But as for where 1080 stands, I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily like it either. There's a lot to like. I like the graphics and I like the sound, but gameplay is clunky. It's slow and it doesn't feel quite right. And maybe it's due to feelings of like Tony Hawk Pro Skater or Snowboard Kids, where it's a little bit smoother, but it is clunky and I don't care for it. But if you need your snowboarding fix, it is a cheaper title on N64. If you put in a bunch of hours, you may be able to get that taken care of and get that going. But if you're just looking for a casual pick up and play snowboard game, you may not have fun with that or with this one. But just want to say that's probably it for me. But thank you for watching and happy gaming ahead.